in person and online. And so what I would like to talk about today is these 4 bases of power, awakening our inner strengths. The Buddha spoke of 4 inner powers: desire, effort, focused mind, and wise investigation. And this power isn't about dominating others. It's about cultivating the inner spiritual strengths that lead to liberation. They're not distant ideals, but living strengths that awaken joy and clarity and resilience in our everyday lives. And as you listen to this talk, I would like to suggest that you be at ease, let your mind rest, hear the sound of my voice. There might be other sounds coming into the room, or at times you might hear my dog bark or sounds going on outside of my house here. It is all part of practice. And so as you relax the body and let the mind be at ease to just listen to a Dharma talk, I really appreciate your company. I'll be drawing on suttas and modern teachers and personal stories, and I'd like to help you discover how these qualities empower our practice in daily life. So first, let me explain the Pali term Uddhitapada. Iddhi means power, success or accomplishment, or potency, and pada means base or basis. It's translated into the English language as bases of spiritual power or bases of mental or psychic power. It can be said that cultivation of these 4 qualities, to some extent, is essential for the success or accomplishment of any task in our domestic, social, professional, or spiritual life. However, in the context of the Buddhist teachings, they refer to qualities that facilitate the development of certain mundane and supramundane mental powers during our spiritual development. These powers aren't supernatural tricks. They're practical qualities of heart and mind, the inner resources that allow us to keep walking the path even when life feels difficult. In Buddhism, Uddhitapada, which is the Pali language that was spoken at the time of the Buddha, it points to inner strength that makes awakening possible. The Buddha taught the 4 bases of power as qualities that give us energy and direction to carry on. So I'll go over the 4 now and break them down and then summarize them later. The bases are Chanda, Chanda, which is a form of wholesome desire. Aspiration, the heart's motivation. Viriya is persistent energy and effort. Citta, focus of the mind, thoughtfulness, intention. Vimamsa is investigation, discrimination, wisdom in action. When these 4 qualities come together, the Buddha said they generate the kind of spiritual strength that makes awakening possible. So let's explore each one, weaving together the Buddha's words and wisdoms of teachers and some everyday stories. Chanda, Chanda, is sometimes mistranslated as craving, but here it means wholesome desire, the aspiration that pulls us toward freedom. It's not about, I want this new car, or I want to win an argument. It's about the deep wish to cultivate kindness, wisdom, and release from suffering. So it starts with the heart's wisdom. Without Chanda, the path is dry, like setting out on a long journey without knowing why you're walking. The first base of mental power, called Chanda, in the Pali language can be translated as intention, zeal, aspiration and inspiration, will, or wholehearted desire to attain, reach, fulfill, or accomplish a certain task. No task can be started or accomplished without this primary requirement of desire, which will help us to persevere and to face any possible distractions or obstructions. The desire here is of such firm nature that nothing internal or external can negatively affect its progress until its full accomplishment. Joseph Goldstein, one of the founders of Insight Meditation Center in Barre, Massachusetts, puts it beautifully. He says, "We often confuse desire with attachment, but there is a wholesome desire that fuels practice, the desire to be free. This is the aspiration that keeps us returning to the cushion, to the breath, to the present moment." I remember once planting a garden in late spring. I had this little packet of sunflower seeds, and when I put them in the ground, there was a kind of faith, not knowing what storms might come or if the soil would be kind enough, but the desire was there. May these seeds grow tall, I would say. And sure enough, some of them did, stretching toward the sun. Chanda is like that. It doesn't guarantee the outcome, but it places the seeds of aspiration in the ground of our hearts. Whether it's the desire to be more patient with our families, to deepen our practice, or simply to live with more awareness. This kind of desire is what makes the path possible. The Buddha carefully distinguishes Chanda, wholesome aspiration, from what we might be more familiar with as craving or tanha. Chanda is not clinging or grasping the way craving and tanha is, but the heartfelt wisdom to grow, to cultivate what is good. As the well-versed monk of current day, Bhikkhu Bodhi, explains, Chanda is desire transformed by wisdom, desire that directs itself toward liberation. In the Samyutta Nikaya, one of the many published teachings of the Buddha says, "Whatever a monk frequently thinks and ponders on, that will become the inclination of the mind." This can mean that when our aspiration is wholesome, our whole life begins to bend in that direction, just as a tree leans toward sunlight. Ajahn Chah offers this image. If we don't plant a seed, we won't get a tree. If we don't want the fruit, we won't put in the effort to water it. Chanda is that initial spark that makes us say, yes, I want freedom. Yes, I want compassion. Yes, I want to live with more clarity and more kindness. Modern teachers often remind us that aspiration doesn't have to look grand. Sharon Salzberg, another one of the founders at Insight Meditation Center in Barre, Massachusetts, and a published author many times over, suggests that even something as simple as, I want to be kinder today, is an expression of Chanda. It is the motivation that draws us back to the cushion, to the precepts, to patience in daily life. Before his awakening, the Gautama Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree and made the firm aspiration, let only skin, sinew, and bones remain, and let the flesh and body dry up in my body. I will not give up this seat until I have attained what can be attained by human strength, human energy, and human striving. That's Chanda at its most powerful. The heart's unwavering desire for truth. The second base of power is Viriya, the power of persistence, energy, and effort. If Chanda is the wish, Viriya is the muscle. It's what gets us out of bed in the morning to sit, even when the mind whispers, stay under the blanket, it's warm here, it's comfortable here. How many of you have heard of the Dhammapada? It's a well-known collection of teachings of the Buddha that are spread throughout the sutras, and they come together in this small and pithy volume. In one of the verses, the Buddha suggests, you yourselves must put in effort. The Buddhas only point the way. Effort, or Viriya, V-I-R-I-Y-A, is woven throughout the entire Buddhist path. It appears in the Noble Eightfold Path as right effort, in the 7 factors of awakening, and among the 10 perfections, or the 10 paramis. A desire or will to do something is not sufficient unless it is accompanied by appropriate effort or energy to persevere with the task until its completion in the face of distractions and obstacles that we may encounter on the way. A seeker with adequate effort will not hesitate to begin the spiritual journey, even when advised that it's going to be an arduous journey and a long one filled with immeasurable hardships. A seeker with adequate effort will not be discouraged and will not slow down or give up the journey, even when experiencing setbacks and severe hardships along the way. On the other hand, a seeker with weak effort and energy will either not begin the task of the spiritual journey when warned of possible hardships and lengthy periods of time involved, or would be discouraged and give up in the face of setbacks and hardships when perseverance and more effort is called for. Effort here, however, doesn't mean gritting our teeth or forcing ourselves. It's not that kind of striving. It means steady, balanced persistence, knowing when to apply energy and when to rest. The Uddhitapada Sutta teaches that persistence, when coupled with mindfulness and concentration, becomes a base of power that carries practice forward. Bhikkhu Bodhi, a well-known monastic who has done many translations of the Buddha's teachings, describes Viriya as a sustained energy that prevents both stagnation and excess strain. It's not simply grinding willpower. The Buddha compared it to tuning a lute. If the string is too tight, it breaks. If it is too loose, it makes no sound. In the same way, Viriya is energy balanced with wisdom. This can take persistence. It's not about doing it once. It's about engaging again and again. That might mean returning to the breath 1,000 times in meditation, or returning to forgiveness in a difficult relationship. Each return is an act of Viriya. We don't practice because it's easy. We practice because it's possible. That's what Sharon Salzberg says. Effort is what bridges the gap between aspiration, Chanda, and realization. In other words, freedom from suffering. Nature offers a beautiful image, a river slowly carving a canyon. It's not dramatic or forceful at any one moment, but through steady persistence, it transforms stone itself. Sayadaw U Tejaniya, one of my teachers and my teacher's teacher, still alive in Burma, and the abbot at Shuyo Min Dhamma Sukha forest meditation center in Yangon, Myanmar, often reminds his students that effort isn't about straining. If you push too hard, the mind gets tight. If you're too loose, it gets lazy. Right effort is like tuning a guitar string. Not too tight, not too loose. We could take a moment to think about how much effort does it take. Let's take our hands and just place them together at the fingertips. Notice the pressure against each other in your fingertips. Okay, you can let go. Now, how much effort did that take? Not very much effort. It's that kind of effort, just enough. Once I decided to take long walks for better health, and the first week was glorious. The second week it rained every day. One morning, I looked out the window and saw the downpour and thought, no way. But something inside nudged me, just put on your shoes, just step outside. The first few steps felt miserable, but soon the rhythm of breath and the movement carried me, and the rain didn't matter. That's Viriya, the persistence to take the first step even when conditions aren't perfect. Ajahn Chah used to say that monks should practice like ants. Ants don't stop to complain or analyze. They just keep walking toward food, one step at a time. Persistence, little by little, creates great strength. It is said that energy is the bridge between intention and realization. In daily life, effort might mean getting up 10 minutes earlier for meditation, or pausing before reacting in anger. These small acts of persistence build inner strength over time. It is as if you watch a mountain river flow steadily against a large boulder. Day after day, year after year, the water carves its way around and even through stone. Effort is like that. No dramatic force, but steady persistence that transforms even what seems unmovable. Now we have the third base of power, the base of Citta, the power of mind, focus, and intention. Citta is sometimes translated as the mind, but here it means the gathering of the heart-mind, the power of focus and intention. Without Citta, our energy scatters. We may aspire to practice and even put in the effort, but if our minds are wandering in every direction, the power is diluted. As I mentioned earlier, the Anguttara Nikaya says, whatever one frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of the mind. I remind myself of this every time I have frequent negative emotions or unskillful emotions that arise, that whatever we think upon and ponder will become the inclination of the mind. And I know for myself, I have a lot of years of old habits of, the complaining mind or the critical mind. And it's good to incline the mind toward kindness, toward compassion. Sometimes I just stop myself as soon as I notice that inclination, habitual inclination of the mind. And I just come up with a phrase like, may I be at ease. The mind is an essential component as a base of mental power in our spiritual journey. Even if we have a strong desire and effort in carrying out a particular task, we also need to be always conscious and mindful of the task in hand in order to carry it out to its full accomplishment. We need to make a total commitment to the wholesome task at hand without allowing the mind to stray away from the task. One has to be thoughtful and mindful of the ultimate spiritual goal on a continuous basis to know where we're at a particular stage in our entire process. When wholehearted attention is consistently paid to the task, it will inform the seeker when more effort is needed and when perseverance is called for in order to complete the task successfully. What we incline our minds toward, kindness, awareness, steadiness, grows stronger over time. Citta is the gathered quality of the mind, the ability to direct awareness fully and steadily. The Buddha highlights Citta, it's spelled C-I-T-T-A, by the way, as a power base that supports concentration or samadhi, which in turn supports wisdom. Bhikkhu Bodhi explains that the Uddhitapada means the deliberate directing of attention again and again. It's the cultivated steadiness that makes practice fruitful. Without Citta, our energy is scattered, and with it we find presence and clarity. That's why in practice we bring our attention back to the breath, or another anchor, resting in awareness again and again. Ajahn Sumedha put it simply, Citta knows. It's not about what arises, the thoughts, the feelings, or the experiences, but about the quality of knowing itself. When the mind is collected, we can rest in awareness rather than be pulled around by passing storms. This collectedness has everyday value too. Think of how transformative it is when someone gives us their complete attention. No phone, no distractions, just presence. That's Citta in action. Not only in meditation, but in relationship, in work, in listening. Citta, when cultivated, gives us that quality of being fully here, not halfway in yesterday, not drifting into tomorrow, but gathered at this moment. Ajahn Chah once noted that the untrained mind is like a restless monkey leaping from branch to branch. Citta is training that monkey to sit quietly, not through force, but by offering it some steady and nourishment, something steady and nourishing to rest on. As Sharon Salzberg puts it, the mind is like a puppy. It wanders off, it gets distracted, it chews the furniture. Our job is not to scold it, but to patiently, lovingly bring it back. That's Citta, the steady return, the gathering of attention. Citta knows. The knowing itself is peaceful, even if what is known is not. I think I'm going to repeat that. Citta knows. The mind, the collected mind, knows. The knowing itself is peaceful. Just knowing is peaceful, even if what is being known is not. So we have the knowing of what's happening in the mind during our meditation practice. Whether it's peaceful or whether it's not peaceful. Whether we like it or whether we don't like it. Once on retreat, I remember sitting in the hall where candles were placed on an altar, and there was a draft that came through the window. and the flames wavered but didn't go out. Watching them, I realized that this is what Citta is like. The mind can waver, but if intention is steady, the flame doesn't extinguish. In this age of constant notifications, Citta is revolutionary. Training attention lets us reclaim our lives from distraction. Practically, we cultivate Citta through mindfulness of breathing, steady attention, gently returning again and again. Each return strengthens the power of focus and brings us one more moment of purification of the heart and mind, beautifying the mind. The last base of power is Vimamsa, Vimamsa. M-A-M in Pali is sounded like M-A-H-N-G, Mung, Vimamsa. The stress is on the second syllable. This is the power of investigation, wisdom in action. The fourth base, Vimamsa, sometimes Panya, is the investigation, inquiry, and discrimination. It's the power of the wisdom that keeps us from blindly striving in the wrong direction. Vimamsa, which has several meanings, such as investigation, discrimination, examination, reasoning, ingenuity, analysis, and wisdom. Wisdom is perhaps the most significant of the four bases of the mental powers in terms of its role in facilitating the process of liberation from suffering to enlightenment. A spirit of investigation is necessary throughout the process of developing the mental powers and also maintaining and facilitating the other three bases. Vimamsa is the spirit of curiosity and discernment. It's the spirit of inquiry. It is the curious investigating mind that asks, what is this? What are the causes and conditions here? Where does this lead? I ask myself a lot those questions when I'm in my meditation practice and I wake up in a certain moment. What is this? What are the causes and conditions? What has come together here? Where does this lead? That's investigation. In the Kalama Sutta, the Buddha encourages this quality, warning against blind faith. He says, do not go by reports, by traditions, or by hearsay. But when you know for yourselves that these qualities are skillful, then you should enter and remain in them. That's Vimamsa, not skepticism, but wise investigation. It can be described as curiosity rather than control. It's not harsh analysis, but an openness to see how things actually work. It can be called listening with the whole body. This investigative quality keeps practice from becoming mechanical. It prevents us from just going through the motions. Instead, we're invited to look freshly. I'm always asking myself, what does impatience feel like right now? What is its cause? How does it pass? Ajahn Brahm describes it playfully as the scientific method of Buddhism. Observe carefully, test the teachings, and see for yourself. It can be applied in daily life as much as in meditation. Stuck in traffic, instead of fuming, we can ask, what's happening in my body? right now? How is my mind responding? That gentle inquiry is already liberating. Sayadaw U Tejaniya, a well-known Burmese monk, often emphasizes the role of investigation in meditation when he says, mindfulness alone is not enough. We must pair it with discernment, with wise attention, to see clearly what leads to suffering and what leads to freedom. A meditator once told me, being on retreat, noticing she was getting tense every time she focused on her breath. She kept pushing, thinking, I must do this right. And finally, she remembered the instruction to investigate. She asked herself, what's actually happening here? And she noticed tightness was from striving too hard. She softened her effort, and suddenly the practice opened up. I call this the boat that turned around. How often can we turn our boats around while we're meditating? Or even in our daily lives, noticing something, waking up in that moment, seeing what is really happening right now and turning our boat around. Vimamsa is the wisdom to see that this isn't working, so let me try another way. Once I was hiking in a bamboo forest near my home on Maui, and I took a wrong turn. And if any of you have ever been in a bamboo forest, you cannot see any direction. You can look up at the sky, but you can't really see anything because the bamboo is so thick all around you. So for a while, I just kept thinking the trail must be ahead. And I heard the sound of the stream that was going one way when I came in. And when I found it, it was going in the other direction. I had made so many turns, I was really lost. But eventually I paused and I looked at the topographical map. Luckily I had it with me because there was no cell service in the area. And I imagined that I was going to have to be sleeping overnight in my little red poncho, and I couldn't even imagine how I was going to get help. And I realized that I was headed in the opposite direction from looking at the map. And that pause, and to reflect and to investigate, saved me from a very long detour or having to sleep in the forest. So Vimamsa works like that in practice. It keeps us from running down blind alleys, reminding us to check, is this wholesome? Is this leading to freedom? Or am I reinforcing old habits? One afternoon, stuck in traffic, I felt irritation boiling. Instead of venting, I asked, what does this feel like in the body? I noticed heat in the chest, tightness in the jaw. My curiosity dissolved the story, leaving just pure sensation to be known directly. Investigation turned irritation into mindfulness. In science, inquiry drives discovery, and in practice it prevents blind faith and stale routine. Investigation keeps mindfulness alive, ensuring we're not just checking out, but actually seeing what's happening with clarity. So let's bring these all together. These four bases of power aren't meant to be practiced in isolation. They support one another. So let's go over them. Chanda gives the heart aspiration. Viriya gives us the steady effort to keep going. Citta gathers the mind into focus. And Vimamsa ensures our energy is directed wisely. When combined, these four bases, aspiration, energy and effort, collected focused mind, and investigation, form what Bhikkhu Bodhi calls the foundations of all accomplishment, spiritual or worldly. They're like the four wheels of a cart. If one is missing, the cart won't roll. Together they create the conditions for awakening. So let's take a few moments to reflect and practice just a little bit. Let your eyes gently close. Find a comfortable position on your chair, wherever you're seated. Sitting comfortably, letting your body settle, and just taking a gentle breath. And let's take a little time for each of these questions for reflection. What is my aspiration right now? That would be Chanda. What is my aspiration right now? To be in the present moment, to sit quietly, whatever comes up for you. What is my aspiration right now? And then we can ask ourselves, what small effort can I make in this moment toward that aspiration? That would be Viriya. What small effort can I make in this moment toward that aspiration? Next we have, can I bring my attention fully here to the breath or the body? That would be Citta, collecting ourselves. Can I bring my attention fully here to the breath or the body? And then let's ask ourselves, can I gently investigate? Does this lead to more peace, more ease, more clarity? That would be Vimamsa. Can I gently investigate? Does this lead to more peace, more ease, and more clarity? These four questions can guide us moment by moment on the path. What is my aspiration right now? What small effort can I make in this moment toward that aspiration? Can I bring my attention fully here to the breath and the body? And can I gently investigate, does it lead to more peace, more ease, and more clarity? Taking a couple more long, gentle, easeful breaths. I'll just mention in closing that the Buddha didn't leave us powerless in the face of suffering. He gave us the tools to cultivate real inner strength. Not flashy powers, but the steady, reliable powers of aspiration, persistence, focus, and wisdom. As Ajahn Chah once said, if you let go a little, you will have a little peace. If you let go a lot, you will have a lot of peace. If you let go completely, you will know complete peace. May the four bases of power support us in letting go of what binds us. and allowing opening to the freedom of the heart. Thank you so much for your practice, and may the merits of our time together here and your sincere practice be of benefit to all beings. And I'll leave you with these 3 questions for reflection. What is wholesome desire, or Chanda, in your life right now? What is wholesome desire in your life? How do you notice the balance of effort, too tight or too loose, in your practice? And in what ways can investigation help? Thank you again for your time and attention. I hope you've enjoyed this talk and get some benefit out of it, and may it bring you joy and upliftment. And keep your heart open. Thank you for your practice. See you again soon, I hope.